Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. It's the last day of the year 2000. And to help ring out what I hope was a good year for all of you, we have a couple of rousing musicals just ahead. Up first, we're going to visit the streets of London with a film based on one of the longest-running stage musicals of all time. It's Oliver from Columbia Pictures in 1968. This is the 8th screen version of the famous Charles Dickens story Oliver Twist, which, of course, is about a young orphan and the colorful and dangerous characters he meets. Our version was the first that had been done on screen as a musical. It was directed by Sir Carol Reed, who, incidentally, had never helmed a musical before. He'd enjoyed a major success after World War II, directing very dark and foreboding films like The Third Man and Odd Man Out. But throughout the 1950s, his career had been somewhat in a decline. Then in 1962, Carol Reed suffered a huge career blow. He'd been fired from directing MGM's remake of Mutiny on the Bounty because of conflicts he'd had with the movie star Marlon Brando. As a result of all of that, Reed's confidence was badly shaken. But he'd always wanted to make a screen musical, and when he got a chance to direct Oliver, he jumped at it because he felt it was almost a guaranteed hit thanks to the popularity of that stage version. Well, the finished film did bring Sir Carol Reed back to the forefront of the film world with a bang. The film was nominated for 11 Academy Awards and won 6 of them, including one for Sir Carol Reed as Best Director and the big one for Best Picture of the Year. Here it is from 1968 with Ron Moody as Fagin, Jack Wilde as the Artful Dodger, Sir Carol Reed's nephew Oliver Reed as Bill Sikes, and Mark Lester as Oliver. The man who directed this movie, Sir Carol Reed, was known for using imaginative tricks to get specific reactions from child actors in his movies. One example is that scene in Oliver where Fagin shows Oliver his box of treasures. Well, Reed shot the scene several times and wasn't quite satisfied with the reaction on the face of young Mark Lester. So one day, Carol Reed went to a pet store and bought a white rabbit. And when it came time to reshoot the scene, he stood directly behind the camera with the rabbit carefully hidden inside his coat. And at just the precise moment in the scene, Reed revealed the rabbit. And Mark Lester's face absolutely lit up. And that's how the director got the reaction he wanted. Stick with us, because up next we have a perfect film to help you ring in the new year. That's because it contains a marching band filled with, among other things, 76 trombones. Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. Up next on this New Year's Eve, another musical. This one a slice of Americana, complete with a marching band, an Academy Award-winning score, and one very charming con artist. The movie is The Music Man, or to be official about it, Meredith Willson's The Music Man. It's a story of a traveling salesman who sets out to fleece a small Iowa town, but ends up falling in love with the local librarian. Shirley Jones plays Marion the librarian, and Robert Preston is Professor Harold Hill, con man extraordinaire. But Preston didn't come by that role easily, despite the fact that he'd created it on Broadway, even won a Tony Award for it. What happened is not unusual for Hollywood. After its successful Broadway run, there was a scramble for the movie rights to The Music Man. All the studios wanted it, and every famous star in the world wanted to play the lead, including Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby. Well, Warner Brothers ended up buying the film rights and hoped to cast Cary Grant in the lead. But Cary said no and offered the same suggestion that he would give Warner Brothers 2 years later when they tried to get him to do the movie version of My Fair Lady. Both times he said, go with the original. And they eventually did, for which I think we can all be very grateful. Here's Robert Preston in a classic musical, which Broadway audiences are currently paying $85 per ticket to see in a new revival. Meredith Willson's The Music Man. Harold Hill was arguably the best film role Robert Preston ever had the chance to play in his career. His next film after this one was How the West Was Won, in which he played a key role, and then after that came a lot of good movie parts in All the Way Home, The Dark at the Top of the Stairs, and others. But Preston returned to Broadway often. Then he had another very big movie hit in 1982's Victor Victoria, which brought him his first and only Academy Award nomination. Robert Preston died in 1987 at the age of 68. Up next, Ingrid Bergman, Charles Boyer, and Angela Lansbury in a thriller about what goes on in an imposing English home when the gas jets begin to flicker and dim.
Today on Turner Classic Movies, New Year's Eve is getting off to a dark start as Detective Joseph Cotton uncovers Charles Boyer's sinister scheme to drive wife Ingrid Bergman mad by gaslight. Then Army General Sterling Hayden goes bonkers and pushes the little red button in Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. And Peter Sellers nearly destroys a Hollywood studio, then moves on to wreak havoc at the party. Turner Classic Movies is having a real blast today.